Hey, what's up, guys? I want to talk today about how you create videos in Unity, and this is a good, hopefully, a good video if you are creating a game and you want to create kind of a trailer, or if you're just using Unity to actually to do animation. There's some really cool tools in it. I'm not going to get into the details of animating, other than a couple camera animations, but it'll kind of go over the overall workflow. So let's get started. I already imported into here. Actually, I right clicked in here. I said import package, custom package, and I chose this chip scene Unity package, which came from the Alamo Reality project. So if I go in here and I open up this the prefabs here, and let's just go in Arch High, move this up here a little bit. I'm gonna grab all these. I'll drag these in. First, before I do that, let me talk about my site. Since this is going to be we're not going to, this is going to be, we do this for a mobile project, but even that, this is because it's a pretty big architectural scene. We're not going to use this, we're not going to bake any of the textures. And the reason why we're not going to do that is because the texture maps are actually pretty good, and we'll use post-processing to add a little bit of ambient occlusion. And I don't think we're going to get a lot out of baking what it would take a long time to do it. So I turn these off. I leave this auto-generate on, but typically before we save it, I'll turn this off, clear the bake data, and then just hit the generate lighting, and I'll show you how that works real quick. So I'm going to grab all of these, drag them over here. These are all the prefabs. I'll drag them over in here, and as you can see now, we've got these prefabs are in here. This is the Alamo, and you can see the textures are actually pretty good on this thing. So and let's just go to the props, grab these, we'll drag these over here. Let's just the props, there's an animation there, and then I'll go into the terrain and add these two terrains. So now, as you can see, we should be in pretty good shape. Here, there's our model that we're going to want to do now. So let's go ahead. A couple things right off the bat that you can see. We got some holes, some light leaks going in there. So let's go right into our directional light, and let's adjust this normal bias down to maybe 0.1, and we get rid of those light leaks there. The other thing you'll see is if I zoom way back, I get out to about here, actually right about there, and now all of a sudden I've got no shadows. And the way that's fixed is edit, project settings, quality. We're going to set it to ultra, but this number right here is 150. Maybe I set it to 200, and now I get the shadows at this level. So the problem with that, of course, is if you have it 200 and you get really close in, your shadows aren't going to be near as crisp, but it's not really a big deal for this since we don't have people walking around or anything. But just for instance, I'll show you when I get into here, something like this. Let's get over to, yeah. So let's look at the shadows that these trees are creating, and let's set this down now to 20, and you'll see that how much crisper they are. So, but I'm gonna leave it at 200 because I'll be doing a lot of views from up here. So this is actually this is a very high polygon count scene, so it's not really good for mobile, but I think we're pretty much set up the way we want to. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to save this scene, file, save the scene, and I'm going to go to scenes, and I'll save it this one right here, and replace that, and now we're saved. Now I'm going to go to the asset store, and I want to download the Cinemachine asset. So here we have it right here, Cinemachine Unity. So that's it, and I can import this directly into our app. I'm going to grab everything and import it. Now I'm going to go ahead and pause this while this thing imports everything. I'll be right back. Okay, good. So we've got that. Let's go back to our scene here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically create an empty, and I'm going to call it the scene object. And I'll take everything in here, and I'm going to drag it into the scene object. So that's our main object. Now we're just we're gonna play around with building a quick animation right off the bat. So the way we'll do that is we're going to go to timeline. I'm going to take the scene object and I'll go to the timeline and I'll lock it down and I'm going to create this and I'm going to put it in the scenes. Let's go into our assets and we'll create a folder and we'll call it timeline. Okay, and we'll call this scene timeline. Oh, that's fine. Okay, so now we have this, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this camera and let's go grab this timeline and let's lock it down. This little lock button. Got to make sure we have that set. And I'm going to move this over a little bit, and I'll grab the main camera here, and I'm going to drag it down to here, and I'll make a Cinemachine track. And now if let's take this game picture. I'm gonna make this and I'll put it let's put it up here and we'll there we go. We can move it like this, or let's move it to the side instead. There, like that. Okay, so there's our picture, our main camera. So as you know, we can take this particular picture, select the main camera, and do a Control-Shift-F, and it'll put the camera there. If I go into the same thing as saying Control-Shift-F is align with view. So that's what that did. So that Control-Shift-F is a pretty important shortcut key. So let's say we're going to start off our animation somewhere like something like this. We'll start off here. Okay, so once we have that with the main camera selected, Control-Shift-F, and that'll set that. Okay, so now right in here in the main camera, I'm going to say add a Cinemachine shot clip. Okay, and you can see that what that does is it creates a clip for this particular main camera. And what I need to do is I need to say I need to create a virtual camera from this. So I'll hit this create button here, and now I've got a virtual camera, and that camera is right here. And if you see that, if I do Control-Shift-F, you'll see that we've locked that virtual camera down. So I've got 300 frames here. And you can go down here and say we're looking at frames. We can put seconds if we want. That's 5 seconds. So okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right here and I'm going to say add a Cinemachine shot clip over here, and I'm going to create another virtual camera. That's virtual camera 2, right? And so I'm going to go and I want to go to my final position over here. So let's move this over here. Let's say that my final position is going to be let's fly down and in, maybe like so. Okay, and with this selected, the 2, Control-Shift-F, and now we have that. So you can see that if we play, we're going to go from one to the next. So let's go ahead and move this over. Let's set the display to 16:9. So you can see as we play right about here, boom, it's going to switch. I want it to move. So what I'll do is I'll grab this. Let's say we want the total animation to be 5 seconds. So I'm going to move this over like so. And so now, I can adjust this so that it goes right to 5 seconds duration. Yeah. So now if I look at this playing, if I hit the play button right here, it's going to play the timeline. Oops, hit play. There you see this is what our animation looks like right here. Okay, so and so if again, if I don't like that last frame, I can go to basically I can go to the last frame right there, and I can select the VCam 2, and I can move it up and down a little bit. So you're starting to see, you can see these wires, but I'm gonna move it right like that. Let's try and do a Control-Shift-F. There we go. But I want to actually put down. I don't want to see that horizon, the horizon line there. There we go. So like that. Okay. So now let's go ahead and hit. Let's rewind and hit play again. It's 5 seconds. Okay, so how cool is that? So now I want to record that, right? So if when I record it, what we're going to do now is I'm going to go under the asset store and I'm going to type in recorder. And let's see, here it is, recorder, Unity Essentials, so beta. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to download that and import that. So I'll pause while this imports. Okay, we've imported now. Back to the scene. Move these over a little bit. And so now what I can do, now that this is done, I can go right in here and I can say, give me a recorder track, right? And this recorder track, I'll say add recorder clip. And here's the clip. And let's go to the inspector. And let's say we're going to start at 0, end at 5. We want a video. We want it to be, say, an MP4. And let's see, our output path is going to be, let's go into, I'm going to go ahead and put it in my downloads folder. And output resolution, I can use the window or I can just, I'm going to get a 1080p on this. And I don't want the UI, of course. Everything else looks about right. Frame rate, constant value, 60. So I might want to make this 30. I think, because I don't need 60 frames a second here. 30 is probably pretty good. Target frame per second is, let's do 30. Yeah, we'll do 30. There you go. So, and then sync the frame rate. So I don't have any audio in here, of course. But so now, in order to record this, all I need to do is hit the play button. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Okay, we're done. So now one thing you'll notice how dark it is. And the reason why it's dark is because we didn't generate lighting. And I'm going to do another one in a second, but I'm going to hit this generate lighting button and you'll see that that'll lighten that up quite nicely. So let's take a look at this video. Okay, so here's our video. I'm going to hit the play button. You'll see it plays very nicely and very smooth. There's no motion blur. There's no post effects, anything going on. You know, it just plays nicely. So we're going to add that next. We're going to add some post effects. We've got a flag moving there. We don't have actually the flag. It's just black right now. So, okay, so let's go ahead now and let's add one more keyframe or one more virtual camera. So we're going to do that. And the way we do that, of course, is we go up to this main camera right here and we say right click and we say add Cinemachine shot clip. And what we can do there is we're going to set up another camera, which I'm going to go and move it in here, something like this. And let's select the let's create a new virtual camera and Control Shift F it. So now, oops, sorry. Oops, that just moved. Undo assignment view. That just moved the wrong one. So we got to go to here. Okay, Control Shift F. Now we've got that there, and then we'll add. Since we're going to add some more, I can use the middle mouse button to scroll this and zoom it in and out. So that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm going to add. Since this is going to be, again, we're going to go in seconds. This is 10 seconds now. I'm going to add another clip, and that clip is going to be. Let's see. We're going to move this. We'll move this in here. Add Cinemachine shot clip, create a fourth one, and that fourth one we're gonna actually I'm gonna just move it above and down. I think let's do the fourth clip, yeah. And we'll move it above and down, something like this, right? So, and we'll move it over here and say Control Shift F, and I think we're going to have to move it down a little more like this. Move it a little more. Something like that. Okay, so again, we just take this, slide it over till we hit to the 10-second mark. 10 is right. there. So that's there. And let's rewind and let's play. So we'll go to this shot, then we're going to do a cut, and then we're going to go from here to here. Now, of course, as you can tell, we're cutting through stuff, so that's not going to work. So I'm going to basically go back in to this clip, select the third one, and we need to move this up. So let's move it something like this. There we go. Let's just do a little bit farther on the left. Let's do maybe there. Okay, so let's go. So we'll go here, we'll do a cut, go here, and then we go across. So that's really going to be our full animation. Now that we've had the light already generated, let's hit a play and let's capture this one. Go back to the... Now, one thing this will do is it's going to actually capture every single frame. So if you've got a lot of stuff going on, that one of those frames is actually going to, it may go slower. It may not go real time, but I'm getting about 30 frames a second. So that's pretty good now. So that should stop us. So we stop. We got what we want. Let's take a look at it. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So this is what we have. We got the new lighting in here. There's a flag waving. Wait a minute, we don't have our cutscene. What's going on? Well, let's take a look at what's going on. We'll go in here and we'll see that, look at our recorder clip did not go all the way. It only went this far. So if we add it out here, right, and then we do another play, we're going to render it out. Now, one of the interesting things here, as we're rendering this, you'll see, is that look how fast our rendering is going. I mean, imagine how cool this is in terms of being able to create tons of shot clips depicting historical kinds of things and everything. And once we start adding post effects, you'll see how powerful that gets. So let's go ahead now and let's stop this and let's take a look at our movie. Okay, so here we are. Let's take a look at this. See, again, we've got a 5-second move spanning there pretty fast. Then we have a cut from here, and it goes right across the front. They're the graves that you can see in the front. So, okay, so that's good. I don't like the background here. We're going to need to put some fog in. We're going to adjust some lighting and play around with some of that. So we'll get to that here in just a second. Okay, so now let's look at creating some post effects. So in order to do that, we need to basically go to the camera and add a post effect component, but we don't have any right now. So let's go into, I'm going to go into the actual, I'm going to pull up the, here is the store. And you can see that the post-processing stack is right here, and it gives us all this stuff. But this is the key thing we've got to look at. Version 2 of the post-processing stack, which is the one excuse me, that works with Cinemachine, is in development on GitHub. So we click here, we'll go here, and we can download it. So we're gonna download a zip of that. Okay, so we've downloaded it now, and I'm going to extract it here. And here's it extracted. You can see that if I look at this README, basically if I double click that, I'm going to open it up in a MD Reader, and it'll say it's Quick Start. So I click on that, I'm going to go to the Quick Start room, or Quick Start page, which is also there at GitHub. And really what we're going to do is basically we want to take this actual file, this post-process layer from your project panel. I'm sorry, we need to add the that folder, the post-processing folder, into your project assets folder. So let's do that first. I'm going to move this over here. Oops. There, and go back here, and let's. Here we are. Here it is. So this is that README. I'm going to grab this folder, and I'm going to copy it. Control C. I'm going to Uni Projects, Test Recorder, and go into my assets file, and just say Control V, put it in there. So copy it over there, and then once I do that, of course, we're going to click on Unity, and it's going to update everything. Okay, so now that's done. One of the things that we're also going to want to do is we want to go into the player here, and we want to set the color space to linear. Linear is going to give us a much more photographic version of what we're doing. So I'm going to click on here. Now this is when you do this, it basically has to go through and change a lot of the different graphics. So this could take a good 10 minutes if you're, depending on what kind of computer you're on. So I'm going to pause it as this goes through and does all of this. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to basically start over and show you how to use post-processing on cameras, right? So we've got our scene. We don't have a camera yet. I'm going to add a camera. So here's a camera. So I've added a camera. So this is a camera. We're going to kind of do a little bit of like what we just recently did. First thing in the camera setting, I want to make sure that we're using the deferred mode. And when we use deferred, we need to uncheck the MSAA. Okay, it'll tell you deferred multisampling is not supported, so we're going to turn that off. And now that we've done that, I'll take this camera, I'll drag it down here, and I'll make a send machine track, and then I'll basically do again, add a shot clip, right? So that shot clip is here. I'll create a virtual camera, so that's this. I'm going to move. I'll move our scene to something that might be good, something like that maybe. And Control Shift F, and it'll set it over here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically go over here and say, add a send machine shot clip over here, okay? And so I don't get confused, because when you're setting, I'll create another one. We have a virtual camera too. I need to move it over here so I can see what that camera is going to look like. So now I'll move this, and I'll just kind of like move it so that it does something like this, and I'll select it and Control Shift F, and it'll show it over here. So now you can see I've gone back and forth. So I'm gonna leave that for now. I can tweak these later, but for now I'm gonna leave them. And what I want to do next is I want to actually go back into my camera, and now I'm going to add this component called a post-process layer. Now the post-process layer, when you add that, it wants you to actually set the layer up here to some kind of layer, and we could set it, if we want to, we can add a layer and just call it rendering. But if we're just going to do animations, which is this scene is I can just basically say layer, just use everything. I can just say we're gonna animate everything, or we're gonna apply this to everything, which is going to be fine. Now, typically in a game that's going to be a problem, because you're going to do way too many computations. But for this, it's going to be all right. So it says do not use everything. It'll slow down the volume blending, but I'm not going to worry about that, because when we do renderings, we'll take care of all that. So let's go to the anti-aliasing mode, and we want to say temporal. Temporal anti-aliasing is going to give us a little bit of a motion blur effect. It's not quite motion blur, but it's actually going to give us better anti-aliasing for movement. So we're going to choose that, leave the defaults. Deferred fog, we're going to leave these on also. So now that we've got this done, we'll go in here and we'll look, and these scenes are the same. Nothing's changed. But now I'm going to add another component, and this is the post-process volume, right? And so when I do that, I want to say that's global. And I'm going to basically say I'm going to give it a new profile. This is a new, or if I had an existing profile, I can drop it in there, right? So there it is. Oh, sorry. Let's go back into my camera. To go to the project. So here's the new profile. I'm going to take this one and delete it. That's an old one I was using. But so this is it. So if I had one, I could drag it into there. But for now, I'll just use this profile. So now as I do that, I'm going to basically go in here and say, I'm going to add an effect. So I'm going to go to Unity, Ambient Occlusion, and this is it. I hit this All button. Everything gets checked. And now if I start adding intensity, you can see I'm adding a little bit of ambient occlusion. I'm just not going to add too much, but that looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit on the thickness modifier, because we are, after all, going to be shooting out from farther out. So that's kind of, as you can see, you can see that we're actually rendering all of this stuff with the effects, right? I think that image effects is checked here, so that means that we're rendering it with the effects in the scene, which is what I kind of want to do. So now that that's done, I'm going to click here, and I'm going to minimize that. I'm going to add another effect, And this one, I'm going to add some bloom, and again, turn on all, and I will just add a little bit. I'm looking at the horizon up here. I'll add a little bit of bloom here, so just enough. That's good enough. Turn that off. I'm going to add effect, and chromatic aberrations kind of cool, but I mean, if you add it, it's fine. Just you can affect it, turn it on, but I don't think it adds a little bit, but it's a little realistic. But sometimes I don't use it. So let's go down to color grading. This is kind of the big one, right? Turn all these on, and so you've got a couple different modes here that are important. One is this. This is neutral, which is a different kind of which looks interesting for photographic. The other one that's photographic is this ACES, which is kind of a film look setting, which is more of a high contrast setting, which I like. But if you use that, you're going to have to bunch up the exposure, the post processing exposure, which I've done here. Just kind of pop that up a little bit. Okay, and then you can do hue shifts and stuff like that if you want. Like, I can shift it in different directions, but I don't want to do that. What I use is these little trackballs. So this is the shaded areas, and I can drag this down. As you see, as I drag it down into the blues, it gets more blue. So that's for the shades. This is for the midtones. I'm going to drag these straight down. It gives it a little bit of a green, and then this are the highlights, and I just punch these up to yellow a little bit. And so I've got a little bit of shading. So if I turn this off, you'll see the difference of what I've done, right? So it's quite a bit different in terms of the way the color grading works. And then lastly, let's see that we've got grain, motion blur. Motion blur is good if you're moving really fast. You got screen space reflections, which are great if you need accurate reflections, which we don't in this. And then you have this vignetting, which I'm going to add a little bit of vignetting. And what I like to do is add enough vignetting so that it's vignetted, but so that you don't really know that it's vignetted. So it's just enough to kind of give you a little bit of vignette, but not too much, right? Too much makes it look like an old-time photo. So just a tiny bit, kind of helps it out. So let's go back into our timeline and let's look. So we go from here to here, right? So if we drag these and we move it over, we'll see that we're going from here all the way over to here, right? So now all I need to do at this point is I need to adjust my I'm gonna adjust this clip length here so that it goes in a little bit, and because I want this one to be at 5.48 or right at 5. There you go. So now we have a 5-second animation. So we start off here, and then we kind of fly over here, and we end up here. So I don't like that last ending, so I can select the 2 and maybe say, I think I can say Control Shift F, Control Alt F, move to view. Oops, that didn't work. I thought that might be the one that I wanted, but that's not the one I want. So now I'm doing some much different ones. So let's go into where we want this thing to be. Something along the lines of maybe this. And select on here and hit Control Shift F. There you go. Actually, I want to see that flag waving. So let's move it down a little bit. There, that might be, and up. You can kind of see when you hit the Control Shift F over here, you're seeing the square, which tells you where this is, where you are. So that helps you out quite a bit. And there's a lot of interesting ways of controlling these animations, like the field of view, near clip plane. You can basically choose if you're trying to follow a target, you can do that. There's some pretty interesting things to do. So anyway, so we're not going to touch that now. So I want to start it just a little bit in a different place too. So that's this particular camera. So let's go to Game Object, move to view, align with view, move to view. We already did that one. Align view to selected. How about that? There you go. That's what I want. So now I just want to tweak this just a little bit. So I'm going to make it more like this. Maybe here's my, and all right, Control Shift F. You can see that. Okay, so now we have our animation, and as we do before, we're going to right click. I'm going to say recorder track, and I'm going to say add recorder clip, and I want that to be exactly at the 5. So start and end at 5, and we want to create an MP4 out of this. And let's see, we want to save it in, I just save it to my downloads folder. We want the frame rate to be constant and at 30 frames a second. And now let's go ahead and we're going to hit play and watch this. Great, and there's our 5-second clip. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so here's our 5-second clip, and as you can see, it's very blurry. I don't know why is that. Well, that's because because we didn't set the right resolution. So let's go do that real quick. Let's go back into our recorder clip, and let's say the resolution in here, instead of window, we want to say it's going to be, let's do 1080p, and let's play it again. There we go. You can see that's much better. So move this over here. There. That worked out much better. So now it may be still a little sticky, so let's add a little motion blur to it real quick. So I'll go back into my camera setting. I'm going to add effect, Unity motion blur, and we'll turn them on. I'm going to just leave the defaults on and let's see what that does. And we'll open it up. And we'll see, we have, there you can see there's a little bit of motion blur, and the way you can tell that is you can just go to a frame and you can see that, see over here, there's how it's blurring. So you can play with those settings to add more motion blur. But that should probably give you the idea. That's probably a good example of how all this works. Hope this will be good. Okay, thanks, bye.